All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Barber. I'm the Chief of Staff for Jurist this year, and I'm a 3L at University of Pittsburgh. And so I've been on Jurist for 3 years now. I'm going into my third year. I started in my first 1L semester, and I've stuck around ever since. But if you're joining us here, you might be curious about what Jurist is. So I'll give you a brief kind of history. Jurist started 25 years ago at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, founded by Professor Bernard Hibitz, and he's a professor here at Pitt, and he's a wonderful man. If you get a chance, get to know him because he is a staunch ally and he's a great guy. But he started Jurist in a way, he started Jurist 25 years ago to try to bring legal news kind of out of the dust-covered halls of academia, so to speak, and into the mainstream. And Jurist is a real-time legal news agency that is actually a nonprofit. So it was founded at Pitt, and Pitt provides some of our funding, but it is technically a nonprofit organization separate from Pitt. So that's kind of interesting, but it is the world's only real-time legal news service and commentary service that is ran by law students. And so, like I said, I'm Chief of Staff this year, so a big part of my job is events like this, bringing awareness and recruitment for jurists, but also our staff satisfaction and that sort of thing. And so one thing we're doing this year, recently we've expanded much farther than previously. And so now we have students in many, many countries and other law schools as well. So currently we have students at Pittsburgh. Obviously, that's the big, large majority of our staff. But we also have staff at Vermont Law School. We have staff at Texas Tech and Temple University School of Law. And we also have staff in the UK and India. And so we all work together on our various services. And so a large part of that is our news service. And so what we do is, sounds like someone is connecting. And so I'm gonna mute you if you don't mind. So a large part of our service is our news writing service. And so our law student editors, what they do is they write up current legal news stories. So as news in the legal system comes out, important cases. Last year, the Trump impeachment was a very big issue that we wrote extensively on. So as these news stories come up, our student editors, who typically work shifts throughout the week, they will write up a news story for publication on our website. And that gets shared far and wide around the world. Another service we have is our commentary service, and that is a little bit more similar to what you might hear about when you hear people talk about law review, and that entails some sort of comment on or commentary on a current legal issue. And so a lot of what's happening right now in terms of recent graduates taking the bar exam, there's a lot of diploma privilege news coming out. And so we've had a lot of commentary on what it's like to take the bar exam and what sort of standards are involved in that. We've published a lot of commentary in that realm, as well as Black Lives Matter and elsewhere. And what makes us different from like a law review type publication is we don't require as much extensive research. There's no footnotes or anything like that in any of our commentary pieces. Everything is linked to a primary source. And so that's a big part of what we do is we connect our readers with primary legal sources. And so that's really one thing that really attracted me to Jurist was just the accessibility of it. But like I said, that's kind of like a brief, quick and dirty version of what we do at Jurist. And I have a wonderful panel here joining me that I'm gonna turn things over to start discussing about their specific experiences with Jurist. And I will let Jake, you can start by introducing yourself.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake Doherty. I'm a 2L. I'm a 2L at Pitt Law. I write mostly news stories actually exclusively news stories as an associate editor. And it says areas of interest in our like guide outline. So my primary areas of interest, I like writing about business law and things associated with that, though this year I had a shift that coincided perfectly with the Supreme Court's opinion. So I ended up writing a lot about the Supreme Court. So that's what I've been doing. So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Vivi.
Hi everyone, my name's Vivi. I'm also a 2L at Pitt Law. So I started out as an associate editor. So my fall semester, I was primarily writing articles, and then this semester and into the summer, I've transitioned into more social media work. So primarily with Instagram, I post stories and the little news articles. If you've seen our Instagram, the blurbs about our news articles. My areas of interest, I kind of do a lot of different things with the social media, but when I was writing, I primarily focused on like criminal law related issues and some like women's and reproductive rights issues. And then I think that covers it. So I'm going to pass it along to Peyton.
Hi everyone, I'm Peyton. I am also a 2L at Pitt Law. I am an associate editor at Juris, and I actually started the beginning of my second semester of 1L year. I exclusively write stories, legal news stories, and I write stories on a lot of different topics. Data privacy, I wrote a story about. I write a lot of stories about agency and congressional decisions and constitutional issues. So I'm just really looking forward to meeting you guys all and getting you guys to know a little bit more about Juris. And I will pass it on to Erin.
Hi guys, I'm Erin. I'm also a 2L and an associate editor, and I exclusively write news stories. This past year, I've been writing a lot of stories about diploma privilege and the bar exam in the current pandemic. I'm also really interested in intellectual property. There's not that many stories that are intellectual property focused, but I have written about the Supreme Court's decision on Booking.com, which was trademark focused. I'll pass it off to Emily.
Hi everyone, I'm Emily Beacon. I'm a 2L at Pitt. As far as my primary focus, I'm also actually getting a certificate in international and comparative law. So a lot of my focus in writing news stuff, I also have recently started writing some commentary stuff, which is lots of fun. A lot of foreign policy issues, and I recently wrote actually a story about sanctions and Trump's sanctions against the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Really love that. And I'm really excited for all of you to get started in law school and in jurist, and hopefully we'll find a way to make it out of this soon so we can actually meet you face to face. But I'm going to pass it off to Trisha.
Hi everyone, I'm also a 2L at Pitt. I started the same semester as Peyton, so kind of right before all this craziness started. I exclusively do news stories, something that has been kind of a silver lining to all of this coronavirus stuff is I've been researching it with a professor all summer. And so through Jurist, I've also been able to keep up with the news as far as the disease goes. And kind of, I got to tie in international law, which is an interest of mine. But that being said, I'm also really excited to meet all of you. And with that, I'll pass it off to Gabby.
Oh, wow. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby Wast. I'm a 2L at Pitt as well. And I am Juris Senior Social Media Editor, and I dabble in a little bit of everything. So I write news stories, I edit commentary, I solicit commentary, I someday hope to write commentary, and I manage all of our social media accounts with the help of our awesome social media team. as Vivi was discussing earlier. And I haven't had to talk about my interests since we've been in school, so I'll just say that I have been working with a judge and I really like that. So that's my interest currently. And who else is left? Stephen, are you the, wait, there's 2 pages. Well, I'll pass it off to Stephen because that's the first person I saw to pass it off to.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Pagach. I am a 2L at Pitt Law. And so I'm another one of the assistant editors. And I mostly do news stories. And so my areas of interest are business and international law, because that's kind of like what I want to get into when I practice, specifically like international business, like how those two overlap. So that's my interest. And yeah, so I think I was the last one. So actually, no, I'm sorry, Boutros.
Hi, everybody. My name is Boutros Imad. I'm not on jurist. I'm an LLM student who's transferring to the JD program. So I'm going to be a rising 2L. So I'll be joining you guys this year. And I'm very interested in joining you in jurist. That's why I'm here.
Yes, thank you, Boutros, for introducing yourself. No worries. Yeah, it's all right, Stephen. It's good to see you, and we're really glad you're here to learn more about jurist. And you know, I know that this is specifically advertised a lot in the 1L class, but we are open applications for all students, not just the 1L class. So we're really glad that you're here and that you're transferring. I know that the LLM program can be hard to fit things into your schedule, but if you're transferring to the JD program, you may have some time to write for us.
Yeah, you know, like now I'm not even considered a 1L or a 2L because now I'm taking all the 1L courses, but I'm considered as a 2L. So it's very confusing.
Yeah, it's that's exciting though.
Yep.
But yeah, so now comes the portion where we're going to start kind of a panel discussion. And I know that we're already about 17 minutes in, so we're going to be a little bit pressed for time with the outline that we've put together. So I'm going to try to abbreviate some of the questions and combine them a little bit that we want to talk about. But I want to make it clear to everyone in attendance that if you have any questions, if anything comes to your mind, or if you want any clarification, feel free to add your questions into the chat box. And so I'll post a little message there for you to see. If any questions come up, feel free to throw a question out there in the chat and we will answer it. But with that said, I'd like to kick off the discussion with kind of what prompted you to join Jurist? Why did you apply? And what was that process like? And I'll leave it open to anyone that wants to jump in.
I can take this one. So I've always been interested in writing generally. And after my first semester at law school, I realized I enjoyed my legal research and writing class. And I wanted to join Jurist because I wanted to gain more experience in writing, while at the same time keeping up to date with prominent legal news. And I heard about Jurist frequently at school, and a couple of my friends had joined beginning of first semester of our 1L year. So I asked them about their experience with Jurist. It's shout out Aaron and Emily right there. And they were really, really happy with their work, and they felt that it was really rewarding. So I decided that it would be a really good experience for me. And Jurist is just such a valuable and unique opportunity to expand your research and writing skills. If that's something that interests you and you're passionate about, I definitely apply for Jurist.
That's hard to follow, but I think I can add on for why I did. I joined first semester of my 1L year, and I joined because before coming to law school, I did press on campaigns, and I felt like it was a perfect intersection of my interests between doing communications on campaigns and law school, combining my research skills and my experience with press releases and experiencing kind of the other side of what I was doing. And I found it to be very, very rewarding, like Peyton said, just because like people are reading what you're writing and you learn so quickly how to find primary sources, know what you're looking for, and it kind of gives you a leg up in a way on your research skills pretty early on.
Yeah, I'll continue. So I joined Juris because I knew coming to law school that one of the primary skills that I wanted to improve was my writing skills. And I also had talked to several people who had graduated from Pitt Law and some people in the administration who had recommended that I participate in Jurist, and that employers really liked it on resumes, which isn't the only reason to join. It's quite the commitment. So don't join just specifically because it's good on the resume. You have to be accountable for like doing work as well. But I knew that, improving my writing was important to me, and also getting a job after graduation was important. So it got me to the stage that I think most of you are in right now, where you're interested in learning more. And then when I learned more about the work and the goals of making legal news more accessible to the general population and others who are interested in specific legal news, that really resonated with me. I'd worked in community development and focused on creating more community-based media that reached more people, and this kind of continued those goals of mine.
We got an interesting question from Cade. He asked about the timeline process for joining. I will kind of jump in because I should say that the timelines changed a little bit from last year. And so I don't know if anyone on the panel knows this, but this year we're going to be conducting our audition and application process a lot sooner than we ordinarily did in the past. So this year, we're going to be accepting applications starting August 17th and going up until September 4th. And so usually that process happens a little bit later in the semester, but because the semester is so truncated this year, we have to kind of speed things up so that we can get people trained in time. But with that said, I'll open it up to the panel to talk more about the process and what it's like applying and auditioning and what that is.
Yeah, I can jump in and answer the second half of your question. When I first joined Jurist, I knew it was going to be a time commitment, but it really wasn't unmanageable with classes and then studying and completing my readings for the next classes that I had. We actually had about, I want to say like a month and a half of training in your 1L schedule. I'm not quite sure how it is this year, but during our 1L year, we had really big blocks of time in between classes. So that's when we mostly had our trainings. And while they were blocked off for 2 hours of time, most of the time they lasted 1 hour, and then you could go off and go to the library and continue your studies for the next day. And also for Jurist, you can write news stories on the weekend. So if you find yourself feeling too pressed for time during the week to balance Jurist and schoolwork, you can always write your stories on the weekend as well.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking off of what Aaron said, I think not like the hardest part, but the most time commitment part is like during the trainings and stuff. But once like you're trained and like that's like kind of all out the way, it's like two hour shifts a week, which is very manageable. Like sometimes like in between classes, I'll have like a shift and I'll just write like a couple of news stories like while I'm waiting for like my next class to start. So it is a time commitment, but it's definitely manageable.
All right, I don't see anyone unmuting, so I hope that answered your question, Cade, but we can move on and talk a little bit about some of the other services that Gabby had alluded to. She mentioned the social media team, and that's something that's fairly new to Jurist. Our social media team has grown exponentially over the past 2 years. And so one thing we would like to discuss is whether anyone on the panel has any experience with social media, and I know that several of you do, and I've been really delighted to see some of the things that have come out of our social media team. So does anyone want to start some discussion about that?
I guess I can start. I think probably an accurate statement is that our Twitter is the most engaged. I think we have the biggest following on Twitter, but I'm not so much a part of the Twitter media. But as far as Instagram goes, like Michael just said, we've had a lot of growth over the last year even, and we've just been posting more consistently. A lot of what the responsibilities are, as I kind of mentioned before, are you kind of just summarize some of the recent articles we posted, pick ones that kind of stand out and that you think people would want to see on social media. We use Canva for our Instagram, so there's set templates. It's nothing too complicated. So even if you don't have a whole lot of experience with that kind of stuff, it's easy and quick to learn. And so, like I said, I also do like stories. So it's just fun every day to kind of go on our website and see. We do the This Day at Law. So seeing what happened this day at law is kind of a fun thing to do every day. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience. We've also recently started doing the Takeover Tuesdays, which I think have been really fun. It's nice to see, even outside of Pitt, some people who are doing it and kind of get a face behind the responsibility. So.
Emily, I don't know if you want to talk about Takeover Tuesdays quickly before I just word vomit about how much I love Jurist media.
I mean, I can just plug it and be like, tomorrow, our lovely Erin here will be on our Instagram, taking it over, taking everyone through her day. The Takeover Tuesdays, and Vivi's done already, as is Trisha. I think it gives a good insight into kind of how people on staff spend their days and the time commitment, and especially over the summer, how they're fitting Jurist into their schedule. I think it's interesting. And when Erin does it tomorrow and asks questions, if there is a question that you forget to ask here in this format, ask her the question when she posts Ask Me Questions, and she will answer it, or I will make her find someone to answer it. Like, don't worry, just a quick plug. Check it out. And it's in our highlights on our Instagram.
I just put our Instagram handle in the chat. So if you are on Instagram and you want to follow us, please check it out and say hi to Erin tomorrow while she's running our account. I think I would just say, so first, I guess I should explain that we currently have a couple of different social media platforms. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn are our primary social media accounts that we run. We also have a Reddit that we've been trying to work on. And yeah, so there's lots of opportunities, but I think the thing that I want to say the most to everyone here is, one, I had literally zero social media experience. And I also had absolutely no journalism or news writing experience. And I remember going into my interview for Jurist and being like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, they're never going to accept me. I have no idea what any of this means. I just really love writing. And I was really looking for a sense of community, which I see Kate has mentioned in the chat. That has without a doubt been the best thing about Jurist. Like, these are the people. My first semester, like, it put so many names to faces in classrooms, and everybody's just really kind and really helpful and wants to see you grow while you're in law school. So you don't have to have journalism experience. You don't have to have social media experience if you're interested in working with me. It's just about wanting to make legal news more accessible to people, which is what we do. So that's really what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, Kate, because personally for me, that's something that Jurist has provided this summer is a sense of community. It's something, part of our workflow, it goes through Slack. So I don't know if anyone here is familiar with Slack, but it's an online messaging platform that we use to talk about work. If anyone has questions or anything, the senior staff is always on, and there's usually somebody there that can assist with just about any problem that comes up with Jurist or otherwise. We've talked a lot about job opportunities and things like that. Pretty much everything that goes along with law school can come up in the Jurist context. And one thing that Jurist has is they do have a small but curated outline bank, just like other groups on campus. There's some really good ones with some really good outlines, but Jurist does keep some for its staff. So that's one thing that could kind of help with everyday classes. But I know that for me, it's been really a connection that's kind of endured the summer, whereas most of my other connections kind of fell off. But that kind of bleeds into another point that we were trying to discuss, was the culture and environment of Jurist. So if anyone else wants to chime in, you know, about that culture and the sense of community and that sort of thing, go for it.
Yeah, I guess Jurist was like the first thing I joined coming into law school, and it was kind of nerve-wracking in a sense because you're surrounded by all of these 2Ls and 3Ls, and you don't really know what to expect. But I would say the highlight of like the community of Jurist was when we went to HEMS and we all like got to meet each other and just talk with each other, and didn't even have to be about Jurist. We just talked with each other about like everyday life and law school and everything under the sun. So that really just shows that like people in Jurist aren't solely just focused on Jurist, and they're there to help you and talk to you about just about anything.
Oh, Vivi, I see you unmuted too. You go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say that in addition to that, like everyone's super understanding. I made this point like during my takeover, but as far as like being student led, everyone, like if you can't meet a deadline for like an article or something like that, like people are going to be understanding because we're all students and we're all going through it. So I think that that's been really great. Everyone's always just like checking in, making sure that you're doing okay. And that's something that I really appreciate.
I guess what I was going to say kind of follows both of those. And when you have all these other students who you're working with and they do all kinds of things outside of Jurist in the school, if there's something else you want to get involved in or you want to know more about, there's always going to be someone who can answer your questions. And you can get a good sense. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear it storming here, but you can get a good sense of kind of everything in the school just from other staff members.
So when it comes to writing pieces, whether it's commentary or news articles, are there any ones that stand out in your mind? I know that Jake had mentioned some Supreme Court cases. Aaron, I think you mentioned Booking.com. So what sort of pieces stick out in your minds? What were some of the more enjoyable pieces that you had to write?
Yeah, so like I said, over the summer, my shift coincided with the Supreme Court opinions being released on Monday morning. So for several weeks, I had some pretty like big ticket cases being announced, and the one that I really enjoyed writing was the Bostock v. Clayton County case, the employment discrimination against LGBTQ individuals. It was an exciting and I think absolutely historic opinion, and it was great to be involved in that case. The other thing that was really exciting to me is that the Supreme Court's site actually broke. It was overloaded, and so because I knew that they were going to be released, I downloaded the opinion And so there were some like major news sites that weren't able to access the opinion. But I was working on the piece, which was exciting. So kind of like watching Twitter chat go off, and reporters from the New York Times or whatever trying to find the opinion was pretty exciting. But so that was one that was really memorable to me to write. And then I think just a week later, 2 weeks later, the Supreme Court struck down the Louisiana abortion law, and that was another really important decision and another exciting one to write for me.
I guess following that with the Supreme Court, in your 1L year, you'll do a brief. And ours for our year was Booking.com versus the USPTO. And so it was happening real time while we were writing our appellate briefs. So that one was really interesting to actually write once the actual Supreme Court opinion came out. And so I was the counsel for Booking.com, and we actually ended up winning the case. So it was really interesting to see how like the arguments I made in my appellate brief lined up with the reasoning of the Supreme Court.
I think that's one of the cool things about Juris too, is that you are like actively writing articles about things that are like current events and stuff. So I know I wrote an article when the Supreme Court ruled that the New York DA could sue for Trump's like tax returns. And so being able to write a piece on that, like kind of like as the story was developing from the Supreme Court, was pretty awesome.
Sorry, Michael, it looked like you were going to go on to another question. I just wanted to say really quickly, because it is really, I had the opportunity to write on some Supreme Court decisions as well, but Jurist also doesn't focus solely on domestic legal happenings. So we do cover international legal news as well. And so I have written a lot, and I like don't specifically pick a story necessarily based on what my interests are. So I'll just kind of like pick whatever is readily available. And I've learned a lot about the UN. I've learned a ton about the International Criminal Court, like things that I had no knowledge about really. So writing the news stories not only helps you understand legal happenings, current legal happenings, but also teaches you, like I've learned a lot. We have a lot of Indian readership, and now we have a handful of Indian staff members as well. And so I've learned a lot about the court system in India that I never knew before working for Jurist. So I think that that's a really exciting thing to do. So that's all.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of folks have some kind of articles that come to mind. And so if any of those come up, don't feel free to jump in, but just to kind of keep us moving, we have a couple questions from the audience here about journals. And so that's a good question. If you don't know, most law schools all have some sort of law review or journals, and those opportunities will come up in your second year. You'll have a chance in between your first and second year to apply and write on to different journals and law review. Does anyone have any experience they'd like to share on those? Personally, I'm a little older than a lot of my classmates, so I decided it wasn't really in my interest to do that sort of work. So I did not apply for any law review or journals, but I know that some folks here have and are on them. And so would you like to talk about that?
Well, so I think we all just like recently, like a couple weeks ago, got our acceptances onto journals. And so I accepted a position on the Journal of Law and Commerce, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how it's going to like meld with my jurist skills and everything like that. So we'll see how it goes. But I know that a couple other people also got on journals.
how did the process compare to the audition at Jurist? How would you compare the two?
Well, the process for journals, it was a month-long application process where you were given a closed sources, like about 20 maybe of them, and you had to write a note, which was pretty much just a paper using those sources, arguing for some sort of novel legal idea. And in addition to that, you had to complete a blue book, a citation blue book test, like little quiz where you had to correct citations, legal citations. And it was definitely a long and grueling process. I'm happy I did it. But compared to the Jurist application process, which was it was shorter. I think we have a week or two, week and a half I think it was a week. We had a week to complete our Jurist application, or audition, which was mostly editing. And then there was an interview afterwards. So comparing the two, the Jurist process was definitely easier, but for me personally, but I don't know if anyone else has any other opinions on that.
I think for me, they were just different. I think that a lot of the Jurist stuff definitely helped with the journal process, because part of what Jurist has done for me is it gets me writing quicker, because the hardest part of writing usually is getting started and knowing where to start. But because of Jurist, I've been doing well, like immediately off the bat, just starting writing about a story or a topic, and ideas come to me much quicker. And I found that to be very, very helpful when doing the journal process and writing I think it was a student note, and it made it a lot easier, in my opinion.
Yeah, like going off of what Emily just said, a lot of the skills translate. So a big part of Jurist, especially when you're writing news articles, is being able to skim, honestly, because you'll get like long court opinions and you have to kind of write a very concise article about that. And that translated, at least for me, well into the law review process, because like Peyton had mentioned, we're given like a list of like 20 or 30 sources, and you can't read all of those in depth. So being able to like pull what's important from those sources and use that effectively is one of the skills that Jurist has taught me that helped with that process.
I just want to jump in really quick and say that the person that Michael replaced, Erin, who has graduated, she was a 3L last year and was our chief of staff last year. She was also the editor-in-chief of one of the journals, right? So you can do both.
Yeah, she was Tech Journal.
Yep. Yeah, you can do both. And we are here, I think, I think that there's no need for us to worry you about journals, especially if you're a 1L right now. And when the time comes, if you do become a part of the Jurist community, we'll be here to support you to make sure that that process isn't so terrible.
Yes, that's very well said.
Yeah, my mentor for my 1L year for Jurist was also on law review, and so it can be done. And she had time to meet with me and help me through Jurist and other first year questions. So, I think a lot of us, as Peyton said, just got accepted. So we're still trying to figure it out, but there are others who have come before us who have shown that we definitely can.
Yeah, I believe the senior leadership at Jurist before my year, the year that has just graduated, everyone, I believe, was on some sort of journal. So it's definitely something that you can do in addition to Jurist. Like it was mentioned earlier, a typical shift would be about 4 hours per week. So it would be two-hour shifts during a week. So I can tell you, not from personal experience, but from anecdotal experience, a law review or journal commitment is going to be a lot more than that. And so I think that's how they would compare. But if anyone has any other points. Sorry, I was focused on Trisha's cat. I love seeing cats. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but Gabby had one crawling across her cabinets earlier.
Yeah, I tried to hide him because sometimes he distracts people, but I'll bring him out to walk across the screen only when it's important that he doesn't do so.
All are welcome. We have another question about getting connected with professionals in the field. And I don't want to try to talk too much, but I will say that I probably have a lot of experience in that area. I'm known, I think, for networking quite a bit. And actually, in fact, this Friday, I have a phone call coming up with 2 attorneys that I recently met through networking from Arizona and Nevada, respectively, and one of whom was a former jurist board member. And so that just arose organically from some of my other activities outside of law school, where I met some attorneys who are in practice and are actually working on a law review article for another law review, not the University of Pittsburgh. But yeah, Jurist has a lot of connections with alumni. We have a very active alumni network. Every year we try to do some sort of event. This year was a little more difficult because of the pandemic, so we had to cancel our networking event, but we do try to connect students with alumni. I'm not sure if anyone here had any other experiences with meeting professionals and working. I know that our commentary works pretty closely with professionals and academics. I have experience in that, but I'll leave it open to the panel if they want to address that, working in the commentary space.
I don't know if anybody else is gonna, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I apologize that everybody has to listen to me. But yeah, we, our commentary service, we get submissions from some really incredible professionals and academics. So I've had, like off the top of my head, I think that recently one of our commentary staffers solicited a piece from the former, what is Bill Barr? What is the word?
Attorney General?
Attorney General, the acting Attorney General, an acting Attorney General during the Clinton administration, I believe. And his name is escaping me, but I will look it up when I'm done talking and post it into the chat for everybody to go read. But so we get really incredible submissions from professors and from practicing attorneys. And so that has been really awesome to be able to create relationships with those people, because then when you're working in the commentary space, whenever a professional or an academic has a thought for a piece, they'll, after we've reached out to them and made that connection with them, they remember your name and they're like, hey, remember that time that we had a discussion about commentary? Would you like this piece that I wrote on this really important legal happening? And we're so excited to get those things. So it's been pretty incredible to be able to have conversations with those people who, unfortunately, I think otherwise I would probably never get to talk to. So.
Yep, I think a big part of the commentary service, so what that entails is typically a student will, once a news story breaks, we will seek professional and academic commentary. And so we contact professors, law professors all over, and we also contact practicing attorneys, and we also accept submissions from students. So we have a student commentary as well. And so all 3 of those are roughly the same format. They all involve some sort of comment on a legal issue. We just separate those into categories depending on who the main author is. But it can be a lot of fun working with another author, because you get to actually edit a professor's writing. And I don't know how well you've gotten to know any of your professors, but I guarantee you that some of them can drone on in their writings. And so it can be fun sometimes to tell a professor that they should rephrase some things or possibly shorten a sentence or make grammatical changes. So that's been fun for me, at least. I can actually like look through a piece and realize sometimes professors struggle more than others, so to speak.
And I do also want to point out that there is student commentary as well. So, and sometimes students do work with professionals or with professors in writing commentary. Either they'll interview someone or they'll do research together, and they are able to do that. But if you're a student and you feel very strongly about some topic, or you have a strong opinion that's kind of novel, you can write a commentary piece and submit it to the commentary team, and they will look it over, edit it, and potentially publish it. I got to do that last month in writing about the International Criminal Court. It was very fun, and it's another writing sample almost that I can give to employers, and they can look at it and see another example of writing skill.
I think another thing that's important, even though I don't have any connections directly with professors or alumni through working with them specifically on a Jurist project, but I will say that it's really beneficial to be able to talk about news that's coming up in their line of work, rather than just kind of asking or talking about like a case from your casebook, right? So like if you're going to talk to a bankruptcy professor or attorney, for example, like I recently wrote a story about Neiman Marcus's bankruptcy. You know, it's better that you know what's going on in the world today and and have the ability to converse about that, rather than looking back into your contracts casebook or something and finding a bankruptcy case. It's not interesting at all. So I think that it's really helpful to be able to converse. And I also think that a lot of law firms or other employers are looking for you to have technical skills that you're going to learn in class, but also skills that are going to help them be able to communicate with their clients or be able to, market the company. And if you notice on like law firms, they'll have like little blog sections or other pieces where they'll write some commentary or something that's going on in the law. And I think Jurist really helps you prepare for that type of work and to think about writing legal stories or legal issues in a more in a way that your clients and others will be able to understand. So I think that it's going to help you be able to have conversations with potential attorneys, and they're going to see the benefits that you're going to be able to bring them outside of just the technical skills that all lawyers, all law grads are going to have.
So we talked a little bit about what a shift looks like with Jurist, and we touched really slightly on the balance between school and Jurist. But I was wondering if the panel had any experiences. Well, I know you do because you've been through a year. And what is it like when finals come around? What is it like balancing Jurist with finals? How does that work?
I guess like during final season, so we always have like a preset schedule that we're sent like in advance, like a few weeks in advance. So we choose shifts that we're going to be writing during finals. So you can kind of plan around that and plan ahead and get prepared. So that's at least how the finals works.
Yeah, this was something that worried me, like when I was in your stage, and yeah, it became a lot easier than I thought. You just kind of picked a time that worked for you. I think I picked times all after my finals were over, but I know some people pick them to like follow a final, And sometimes you just want to like get your mind off of studying. And I think by the time you get to the finals, you'll be able to figure out, you know, what you're looking for. And it was less intrusive than I thought it was going to be.
And something that I don't think everyone here has any experience with, but something that will in the future, if you stay on with Jurist into your second year, you actually have the opportunity to get academic credit for your work on Jurist. So just like any kind of teaching assistant or research assistant credit, for every 42 hours, I think it's 42.5 hours of work that you put in, you can get 1 credit. And so it would work similar to like an externship that you might do in the summer or a fall or spring semester. And you can keep track of your hours, and those hours all count toward educational credit. So I've been lucky the past 2 semesters, I've gotten 2 credits from working on Jurist. So that's something to look forward to. So we have about 4 minutes left. And so, oh, we have a question from Katrina. Can you apply at the beginning of each semester, or is it only at the beginning of each year? Well, I'll take that one. That's just one application. Once you're accepted to Jurist, there's no need to reapply. You can simply continue on, and the commitments tend to go on through the summer. We do have some staff on hiatus. So if your summer activities don't allow for a Jurist commitment, it's perfectly fine to just let us know and then resume back once classes come back in the fall or the spring. It's no problem, but we do keep schedules through the summer.
I just add, I don't know if you're doing it again this year, but last year they did open up an application cycle at the beginning of the second semester where Trisha and I both applied and joined our second semester in the middle of the year. So I don't know if that's still going to be happening or if that's kind of something that is up to discretion.
Yep, it definitely will. Yeah, we do recruitment in every semester. Typically the fall is a little larger than the spring, but anyone that didn't have time or didn't find out about us, that's part of why we're doing these Q&As, is because I know historically a lot of information hasn't really made it out really quickly. So we're trying to be proactive and let you know. But Peyton, if you and Trisha wanted to share a little bit about the spring recruitment, what that was like, what was it like coming in in the spring? What was your training and things like?
Yeah, I can talk a little about it and then hand it over to Trisha. So our spring recruitment, it was me, Trisha, and Dan Clapper were the 3 new staff at Jurist. So it was just the 3 of us, which is definitely a lot smaller than I know the incoming staff was in the beginning of the fall semester. I don't know how many of there were you guys, but I think it was like 20 or something like that. So it was smaller, but honestly, I really enjoyed it because I got to know the senior staff people a lot better in like a more personalized environment. And it was much easier to, ask questions, or if I like needed any clarification on anything, Jackie was always there to answer any questions and super available. And it was just so nice. I still had Trisha and Dan who were going through it with me and going through the training and everything, which I think lasted about 6 weeks, I think it was. And then I also had my friends who had been on it for the first semester who were also really helpful and, showing me the ropes and answering any questions I had. So I don't regret waiting for the first semester. I was a little apprehensive about balancing school and my Jurist commitment, but once I joined, I realized that was not really something I needed to stress about, but I still am really happy that I was able to join Jurist. So if Trisha has anything to add, I don't know.
Yeah, I would pretty much say the same thing. I found it really valuable to wait until the spring semester just because I was able to get control of my schedule and figure out what I wanted to do. I was really concerned because I saw in the fall everyone built such a great community, and it felt like all the writers that joined in the fall were just leagues above me and much better writers. But I ended up being worried for nothing because everyone was really helpful, and everyone that had been there was really interested in getting to know us and helping us. A lot of people reached out and made sure that we were comfortable and that we didn't have any lingering questions. Um, I'm sure the fall experience was the same, but it was just really nice to have kind of a smaller group. So you can't go wrong applying in either semester.
All right, I think, so we're right at 7. So at this time, I'm gonna conclude the recording, but if anyone wants to stick around and ask more questions, I'm gonna stick around. I have a few minutes and can hang out and chat a little more. But I wanted to thank our wonderful panel. And one thing that I did fail to mention at the beginning, which I really should have, was that Jurist is staffed. We do have some professional staff, and Peyton had mentioned Jackie. And Jackie Belchick is one of our professional staff members. Megan McKee is our executive director, but Jackie is based at Pitt Law, and she's our research director. And she takes care of, I would say, 99% of the training when it comes to news writing and commentary writing and editing. And yeah, she has been an invaluable part, I think, to all of our experiences at Jurist, because she has really kind of guided us in our work and in our studies as Jurist scholars, so to speak. But with that said, I would like to thank everyone for coming, and I will stop the recording and we can hang out for a little longer if you like.